I did groups in the Monoman School for like 14 years with the kids, you know, just talking about life, living, uh, you know, the culture, what's expected of them, you know, the seven teachings that we have. I just got contracted to do groups for the CD program, so I'll be doing two of those twice, so two groups a week. You know, some of the things that I talk to the kids about is, you know, like how alcohol uh, is not part of our culture. It was introduced to us by the fur traders. You know, the language. The language is really important, you know, because that's part of our history. If we didn't, if we don't learn our language, you know, our history is going to be gone. Because, you know, that's where a lot of it lies in the language. So, you know, I think, you know, they need to know the language. Um, that was my, you know, my late husband, when he and I would go out and do groups, you know, he always said, I want every child on a reservation to learn the language. And so, you know, we were going around doing different things, you know, like we named all the lakes, you know, like Round Lake, White Earth Lake, Twin Lakes, you know. We took those names and we translated the English names into Ojibwe. And hopefully, you know, they're going to put these signs up someday. Probably not in my lifetime, but you know, I hope they're up there someday. You know, my grandparents, um, they had a son that was in the Navy, and they adopted him. But anyway, he used to write letters to my grandma, and all his letters were in Ojibwe, but they were all phonetic. And she had a stack of them, you know, and I don't know what happened to those. Because I remember as a kid one time, you know, we were reading these letters and we'd laugh because he would tell stories, you know, and we'd laugh and, you know, we'd read it to each other and then we'd all laugh, you know, and stuff like that. You know, and my grandparents too were, when they lived out on Leech Lake, um, their mode of travel was by water. Uh, my grandpa had a horse, and but if they wanted to go into town, then they'd have to take the canoe or take the boat and go. And he'd go along the shores of Leech Lake up toward Walker, and then there was a river that flowed off. It was Steamboat River, and he'd take that river. We'd go down that river, and then on 371 there's a railroad track. Then a little village called Wilkinson. Well, that's where my grandma used to go do some shopping when she ran out of groceries. Um, so I remember one time going, and we all had to take turns going with my grandma to translate. I think I was about 10, 11, So, you know, I'm speaking English now. Broken English, but I could talk it. And that was another thing too, you know, when I was a kid, you know, my parents couldn't talk, couldn't visit because we all understood it. So we knew everything that was going on, you know, in the house. We'd go out and these old grandmas would all be visiting, you know, and I used to sit there and laugh at, you know, because I knew what they were saying. So I remember this one woman talking about, she told a joke, and it was a, it wasn't a, it wasn't a nice joke, but anyway, you know, she was telling this joke, and these women were all kind of laughing, you know, and I'm sitting there in the corner, and this one woman saw me, you know, and she said, "Do you know what we're talking about?" I said, "Yeah." I mean, you know, it's getting lost. I remember as a kid growing up, I mean, you know, wherever you went, you know, wherever the people were talking Ojibwe, you know. Now they don't even do that. I used to teach Ojibwe class at the RTC there, you know, and that's how I taught those employees how, you know, I tell them, you know, you need to sing it, you know, and they just kind of laugh, you know. But once he started singing it, you know, they found that, you know, it's so much easier.
Wow.
They were picking up on it just, you know, like that. And I told them too, I said, you know, if you learn to count from 1 to I don't know if it's 10,000 or 100,000. If you learn those, you'll be speaking Ojibwe. You'll be fluent
Okay.
because every I want to say syllable, but I don't know if that's the word, uh, is in the counting. So you're pronouncing it, you know.
Interesting.
You know, like when you count, you know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Basic, Nish, Niswi, Niwin, Nanan, Ingoraswe, Nijwaswe, Ijwaswe, Jangaswe, Midasan. I have grandchildren, I have great grandchildren, and my one granddaughter lived with me until she must have been 12. But we taught her, you know, we taught her a lot of stuff, you know. She used to go out in the woods and we'd go hunting and she'd go with us. She was like 5, 6. She'd be out there in the woods with us and she'd be walking around, you know, and she'd look and she'd say, "Oh, there's medicine here." I mean, you know, she knew the medicines, um, and she had a vocabulary of maybe 300-400 words in Ojibwe. She never kept up on it though, so she lost it, you know. If you don't continue talking in Ojibwe, you lose it. So, you know, it's like you have to practice it every single day. So, you know, like with my great grandkids now, you know, I you know, I teach them the basics, you know, like please, thank you, hello, goodbye, not goodbye. We don't have a goodbye. See you later. It was after after I moved back up here, uh, and I was up here for, I don't know, maybe 2, 3 years, and um, I knew my last husband. Him and I were friends for like 7 years before that, you know, and he was my best friend. And so anyway, he called me one time, and he was coming up to White Earth, and he wanted to visit with me. So I said, sure, you know, so, well, then we started dating. Eventually we got married, you know, and I really stepped into, you know, the cultural aspect. Even though I was raised with my grandma until I was 13, a lot of that stuff, you know, was starting to come back. I remember her teachings, you know, like how to be a woman, how to be an Anishinaabe woman, how to raise your children, you know, how to care for your child. There's a certain way that, you know, I guess, you know, like in the old days, you know, when the tribe was being attacked, it was a woman's responsibility to keep the kids quiet. I got a award for from the state of Minnesota, human rights. Because sometimes I go protesting. I did that, you know, when I was younger. And so anyway, I got that award from the governor. And 2 days, I think it was about 2 days later, I got this big envelope in the mail, and I looked at it, you know, and it said, from the office of the governor of Kentucky. I looked at it and I thought, I wonder what kind of money he wants. So I threw it in the back seat, you know, didn't even look at it. Just threw it in the back. And a couple weeks later, I was cleaning out my car and I seen that. And I didn't even look at this, you know, so I opened it up and I read it. And I was made a Kentucky Colonel. That's one of the highest awards you give a citizen. And mine was for human rights. Because, you know, I went down there and I protested digging up burial sites and then presenting it or testifying before the legislators. But it took like 24 years for me to get it. But I got it, you know, and so I'm a colonel. And when I tell people that, I said, you know, I'm right up there with, I'm in the same canoe with Elvis Presley, Bill Clinton, Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, a lot of celebrities from California. Most of the ex-presidents. I said, and Mary Favorite.